Ireland's ancient roots run deep, a land molded by the Celts, stirred up by Viking invaders, and sprinkled with a dash of Norman influence. But what if I told you that Irish ancestry goes much further back, thousands of years before the Celts even arrived? Groundbreaking DNA discoveries have uncovered a rich, untold history of Ireland, rewriting what we thought we knew about Irish origins. It all started in 2006 in the unlikeliest of places, underneath a pub floor in Ballycastle, County Antrim, Northern Ireland. Workers renovating McQuaig's bar stumbled upon ancient human remains hidden beneath a large stone. What initially seemed like a crime scene soon attracted the attention of archaeologists and researchers, and what they found was nothing short of extraordinary. The remains dated back to 2000 BC, around 4,000 years ago, and belonged to Ireland's early Bronze Age. Scientists from Trinity College Dublin and Queen's University Belfast were called in to study the bones, and their findings would shake the foundations of Irish history. These ancient bones belonged to people who lived in Ireland a full 1,000 years before the arrival of the Celts, yet they were direct ancestors of modern Irish people. The discovery forced scientists to rethink what they knew about Irish ancestry, opening a window into a much more complex past than previously imagined. For decades, the popular narrative of Irish ancestry started with the Celts, who arrived in Ireland around 500 BC. These Celtic tribes brought the Iron Age to Ireland, along with new languages, cultural practices, and technologies that would define the island's identity for centuries. However, the DNA analysis of those ancient remains from Ballycastle painted a different picture, one that pushed the timeline of Irish ancestry back by over 1,000 years. As it turns out, the origins of Irish people are far older and more diverse than anyone had imagined. The DNA from those remains revealed something shocking. The ancestors of modern Irish people had arrived in Ireland long before the Celts. In fact, they were part of a migration wave that came all the way from Anatolia, a region that's now part of modern-day Turkey. That's right, modern Irish people can trace part of their ancestry back to the Middle East, specifically to the Anatolian farmers who migrated westward across Europe during the Neolithic period, or New Stone Age. But how did these ancient Anatolian people end up in Ireland? And what does this mean for our understanding of Irish identity? Let's travel back to around 6,000 years ago, during the Neolithic period. Europe was undergoing a dramatic transformation as farming began to replace the old hunter-gatherer way of life. This shift was driven by the migration of a group known as the Anatolian farmers, who brought with them revolutionary farming techniques and a new way of living. These early farmers spread westward from Anatolia, modern-day Turkey, eventually reaching Ireland. Around 6,500 BC, these Anatolian farmers began their migration across Europe, following two main routes. Some traveled along the Danube River into Central Europe, while others moved along the Mediterranean coastline toward Western Europe. By around 5000 BC, their descendants had reached what is now France, and by 4000 BC, they had crossed into Britain. By around 3750 BC, these early farmers had finally made their way to Ireland. These Anatolian farmers didn't just bring new crops like wheat and barley or domesticated animals like sheep and cattle, they also brought their DNA. And it's this DNA that has been passed down through generations, forming a significant part of the genetic makeup of modern Irish people. In fact, a study published in 2015 revealed that the DNA of a Neolithic woman who lived in Ireland about 5,200 years ago closely matched the genetic profiles of modern people from Spain and Sardinia, who also descended from Anatolian farmers. This discovery means that a large portion of Irish ancestry can be traced back to these early Anatolian settlers, whose influence stretched far beyond farming. They introduced Ireland to new technologies and built some of the island's most iconic monuments, including the famous Newgrange Passage tomb in County Meath, which dates back to around 3200 BC, older than both the Egyptian pyramids and Stonehenge. The arrival of the Anatolian farmers in Ireland wasn't just a genetic shift, it was a cultural revolution. These early settlers brought farming to Ireland, which changed everything. Before their arrival, Ireland's inhabitants were hunter-gatherers, relying on wild plants and animals for survival. The Anatolian farmers, however, introduced the concept of settled agriculture, which allowed people to stay in one place, cultivate crops, and raise livestock. This led to the development of more permanent settlements and an entirely new way of life. But the contributions of the Anatolian farmers went far beyond food production. They also built some of the most impressive and enduring monuments in Irish history. The Newgrange Passage tomb, for example, is a testament to their advanced engineering skills and cultural significance. Newgrange, built around 3200 BC, is famous for its alignment with the winter solstice, when the rising sun illuminates the inner chamber of the tomb, a phenomenon that still draws thousands of visitors today. This period of Neolithic innovation laid the foundation for much of what we now recognize as Irish culture. However, the story doesn't end with the Anatolian farmers. Over the centuries, new waves of migrants would arrive in Ireland, each adding a new layer to the island's rich genetic and cultural tapestry. By around 500 BC, another group of people arrived in Ireland, the Celts. Originally from Central Europe, the Celts were a collection of tribal societies known for their distinct language, art, and social structures. They were skilled metalworkers and brought the Iron Age to Ireland, along with new tools and weapons that would revolutionize Irish life. The Celts introduced the Irish language, a member of the Celtic language family, which would eventually evolve into Irish Gaelic. They also brought their own unique art style, characterized by intricate designs and knotwork patterns, which became a hallmark of Irish culture. But while the Celts had a profound cultural impact on Ireland, DNA evidence suggests that they didn't drastically alter the genetic makeup of the population. Instead, the genetic markers from the early Anatolian settlers remained dominant, with the Celts contributing more to Ireland's cultural identity than its gene pool. The Celts also brought a new social structure to Ireland, organized around clans led by chieftains. This clan-based system would shape Irish society for centuries, influencing everything from politics to daily life. However, the Celts were just one chapter in the long and complex history of Irish ancestry. The Celts weren't the last group to leave their mark on Irish history. In the 9th century AD, the Vikings arrived in Ireland, not just as raiders, but as settlers. Over the next 2 centuries, they established key coastal cities, including Dublin, Waterford, and Limerick. While their influence on Irish culture is evident, particularly in place names and language, they also left a lasting genetic imprint on the Irish people. Recent DNA studies have shown higher levels of Scandinavian ancestry in certain parts of Ireland, particularly in coastal regions like Limerick and Galway. The Viking influence is still visible today, both in the genetic makeup of modern Irish people and in the legacy of Viking place names and cultural practices. The Normans, descendants of Vikings who had settled in northern France, arrived in Ireland in 1169 AD. Initially invited by an Irish king, they quickly established control over much of the island, bringing with them a mix of French and Viking ancestry. Like the Vikings, the Normans left their genetic mark on Ireland, particularly in the east and southeast. So, what does all this mean for our understanding of Irish ancestry? It means that the story of the Irish people is far more complex and diverse than we ever imagined. From the Anatolian farmers of 6,000 years ago to the Celts, Vikings, and Normans, Ireland's genetic heritage is a rich tapestry woven from many different threads. These groups didn't just shape the culture and history of the island, they also left a lasting genetic legacy that still resonates in the DNA of modern Irish people. This new understanding of Irish ancestry challenges the traditional narrative that focuses primarily on the Celts. Instead, it reveals a far older and more intricate story, one that stretches back thousands of years and spans continents. As scientists continue to study ancient DNA, we're likely to uncover even more layers to this fascinating history. So, the next time you hear someone talk about Irish roots, remember that those roots go much deeper than the Celts. They stretch across Europe and even into the Middle East, connecting modern Irish people to an ancient and diverse past. What do you think about this new chapter in Irish history? Could it change the way we think about Irish identity? Let us know your thoughts, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.